Hello, this is MJ,
Hello, this is Cassie.
and welcome to another episode of Intimate Conversation Online Exploration. And today the topic was
Independent.
yes, what does it look like when you're in a relationship where the people are emotionally independent? We had to clarify that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people have financial independence. They think someone who's independent when they're they're depending financially, but people
Mhm.
forget emotional independent.
Yeah.
So we needed to add that definition.
Mhm.
And for me, what I like about it, because on Thursday we had a group and Saturday because now we have two groups, one's on Saturday evening at 7 p.m., one on Saturday morning at 11:30 Eastern time. So for me, I thought it was very interesting, the answer that we got. I think that we kind of changed the definition of what is independent in a relationship is how does it work? Does it work well with an independent and a dependent person? Because someone who's dependent will need the independent to always be there. And for the independent person, it will be too much suffocation for that person. And I think we learned a lot about emotionally independent. And I think Saturday, the fact that we changed that question, we had a lot of people taking in what it is to be emotional independent in a relationship.
Yeah. There's definitely a difference. And it was interesting to see how, not that it was specifically said, but our Thursday group were more naturally closer to dependent. And
Yes.
our Sunday group, or Saturday, today's group, was more into the naturally independent. So the answers were a little bit different in terms of how they view being independent. Some, it was a little bit more like negative, for lack of better terms, on went on Thursday, and then a little bit more positive on today, basically. So that was interesting.
Yes, and it's true because on Thursday there was a lot about if you're independent, you're kind of open to see other people, but they had a different being independent and a commitment with someone. So we had to clarify that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found interesting with the group of Saturday, it was a lot of independent person, but it was when we asked the question, what was the pro and cons of being independent in a relationship? It was hard for people to find the cons or the pro because the cons is also that you need to make sure that your boundaries or communication skills since the beginning of dating is open and is respected to balance your relationship. I know we heard someone talking about like they were dating someone, they went to travel for 1 week, that person was too independent, did not contact that person. And
Can you hear my dog?
yes, I could. Hi, Newton. You have the attention. We love you.
All right, let's take a. I'll take a little break and make it quiet, and then
Yeah,
cut back and come back 2 seconds.
that's okay.
A few moments later.
So like I said, for me what I found it interesting is like it was a definition of people what our audience have what is independent in a relationship. Is dependent is when you're independent, are you someone that know who you are as a person? Are you honest enough to mention that when you start dating? I'm honest, this is who I am. For me, spending time with my friend is important because they help me grow. Or are you making believe you're independent but you're not honest with that person either, that you don't respect your partner. That's why I kind of noticed the nuance of today. It
Yeah.
was the word respect, because you could be independent but you will let you know your partner that you're going to travel for 2 weeks, and you will send them a message, say, hey, I arrived here, because you respect that person.
Yeah.
If you did not respect that person, you were not getting news or any feedback about your life for 2 weeks. So I think was what I found it interesting.
Yeah. And the thing that was interesting that was brought up was this idea of like that's how you can discern somebody who's more of a player and is using the independence as an excuse for playing around with the other person and not being serious. I never thought about it that way, but that's a very good point. So to make the distinction between somebody who's, serious but independent, and somebody who's using the independence as an excuse to stay in a casual relationship and not be serious. Like, oh, I need my independence, so I'm leaving for 2 weeks. Don't contact me, which is a good excuse to cheat or whatever type thing. So it's very interesting to see there's a difference between the two, essentially.
Yeah, and also I think being independent also is what is commitment. So you could be independent dependence also, but you don't have the same definition of commitment. And it's all come back what we always say: communication and boundaries, and being
Yeah.
honest about since the beginning of who you are and what it is.
Definitely. So there was that. There's the pros and cons. I'm trying to think about. Well, in terms of pros and cons, I think a lot of the thing that came back was this whole idea of like the pros of being independent is that you can have time for yourself, you can be yourself, you don't feel confined. But the cons of being independent and emotionally independent relationship is the risk of never being able to really connect and also growing apart.
Yes. Yes, that I completely agree. And like we said, a lot of people were saying that like sometimes they were in a relationship, both of them were too independent. And I think it's because the relationship was not a priority.
Mm.
Again, because you could be independent, but your relationship is what you could offer. But you know that will be is a priority in your life. That's mean if is your job is your priority, is your friend is a priority before your partner. What is that priority in your life? And also I like something that one of our audience said was about a list. To grow, you're not necessary. Everybody's different. That list could change. And sometimes people who's very independent have a list for everything. And they have the criteria, they have that magic, let's say unicorn. They create a unicorn, they put all the ingredients to create that perfect person in a list. But when they're so stuck to that list, they're forgetting a chance to meet someone good.
Mhm.
And I want to make clear they have a difference with lists and boundaries. Your boundaries is what who you are and what you don't want to compromise with who you are and your value that you're looking for someone. A list is a little bit like, I wish she was 6.5. I wish she was smart. I wish she was educated. I wish that like a little bit the thing that you could compromise and meeting someone. And that list would involve because we all involve in all the girl.
Yeah. And it's interesting because they brought the point also of like sometimes being independent is an excuse not to get close to somebody and to avoid relationship. So when you have these series of lists of things that are like almost impossible, it's always an excuse to say like, oh, not the right person. It's not that I'm not trying, it's because they're not like 6'5" with so much salary and all these type of things. And that's really just a reason to stay away because of there might be a fear of actually getting closer, because when you're closer with somebody, you have to be vulnerable. It takes courage. And sometimes, not all the time, that could be one of the reasons why people are independent.
I agree with that. I think if I look to my circles, because I say I have like guys or women friends, like both sex, that are they will consider themselves independent, but they have that fear of being hurt. And if you have that fear of being hurt, you're not gonna let a chance to find that person. So I would say like dating is gamble a little bit. You're a gamble your heart, but it's how you're gonna build your heart back after that relationship. If it's crumble, how you gonna do that? So they have a fear. They have a part is fear to say I'm independent because I don't want. If I'm become vulnerable and I'm connecting with someone, I may get my heart break, or you may not, or you may grow to something beautiful with another person.
Yeah, and there's also like I find that that topic is very interesting because there's also the another option of feeling secure in yourself enough to know that no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. You have
Yeah.
the strength within yourself to be okay. A lot of these fear of getting hurt. I mean, it's easier said than done. I know that for 100%. But all these fears of being hurt, the only reason why we feel hurt is because we hold that feeling within ourselves. It's like there's pain, you can experience pain, and then there's suffering that you keep perpetuating that thing in your mind over and over again, and you keep suffering. The pain is instant. You had your heart broken, somebody is no longer want to be with you, you feel the pain, and then you can let it go, or you can hold on to it and suffer. And that, I think that's what most people are afraid of, and they don't realize that they actually have, it's hard, but you have control over that.
Yeah, and also I think I completely agree with you, but also it's like I said, if you do not open up, if you're secure of yourself, we're all gonna get hurt away another way. You may have a fight with your partner and you guys are perfectly conscious and he may say something that hurts you. But it's to see how you're gonna handle that. It's to trust yourself that you could pick up yourself. It's hard when you get a heartbreak, it's one of the hardest things, but more you're secure with yourself, more you're okay with that decision, more you're able to pick up yourself and mourn and see what did you learn and what did you not learn and what you learn about yourself and what did you let like that you apply also. Is to do like an introspection of all the real shit and learn about it. But I do agree with you that it's like more you're secure about it, more it's okay for you to be vulnerable and to be okay that you may break your heart.
Yeah. It's all part of this whole idea of being conscious, kind of knowing that the person broke your heart, but it's probably a good thing that you're no longer together, because obviously if you were meant to be together in a conscious loving relationship, the person wouldn't break your heart. So if it's
Exactly.
like somebody cheating or something like that, yes, it hurts, but at the same time, it's better this way, because obviously the relationship was not strong enough to be able to keep you guys together. So there's a point where you can get to a point where you're thankful that that relationship is no longer, because it wasn't fulfilling on
Yep.
both sides, which is not a conscious relationship anyways.
Yeah.
So again, easier said than done. I totally agree.
It is, but it's, I think that's called a part of growth.
Yeah.
The harder you try, the harder you learn, you know yourself.
Mm,
Some stuff will come easier. And I think that's a part of being vulnerable. When I was saying when you're vulnerable with yourself, that's the moment that you're more honest with who you are.
mhm,
That you accept what it is, and you accept if someone break up with you and that it doesn't work, or you decide to break up with someone because
mm.
your need is not prosperity, or you do not understand that person, is to be honest enough to know what's better for you and what
Yeah.
are you looking for next.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It always comes back to the same point, but it's always practice. It's always be honest with yourself, be aware and present with what's going on, and communicate.
Yes.
Communicate with others, but also like that's part of being honest with yourself. Communicate with yourself as well. Like understand if you're an independent person, like why exactly are you independent? What are your boundaries? You have to understand that with yourself before you communicate that with others. And that was another thing too that was really cool with the conversation is to we got to see what does being independent means and looks like for everybody, and they were different for everybody, which is
Yes.
fine. And to if you have the courage to communicate that to a potential partner so that you know what it means to them and you know what it means for you, and you know what you need, what's too much independence and what's not enough independence. Once everything is laid out on the table, you have a better understanding of if that relationship is going to work or how you can make it work. Like if somebody needs a week off and the other person just needs to see like, okay, it's fine that you need a week off, but like just tell me that you're okay when you arrive at the airport and check in with me midweek and check in with me when you come back, then I'll be fine. And they find a balance and it's fine.
And yeah, and that's called compromise, but in a positive way. It's
Yeah.
not compromise, and it's working together. It's
Yeah.
finding, it's to find each other in the middle of the ground of the road.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's very cheesy, but it's like a big road in the middle of the ground of the road. You're there and you're finding each other and you're compromised just to make sure you're part of it. And I know I did it because I always say that I'm not texting is not my favorite way of communication.
Mm.
I only speak to the phone with three person. That's my mom, my sister, and my brother because they're far away from me. I'm not a fan of like after work texting. But what did I learn is it is important for my partner. Just sometime in the middle of the week I say, hey, how are you? How's your week so far? And how did it is? And what did I learn from my past relationship is that person was like, okay, that's good for me. That is to compromise, not to disappear in a week with no form of communication, see how I'm doing, and I know where I'm coming back. But I think that's called respecting somebody else's boundaries and make sure that it's okay for you too.
Definitely, definitely. And another thing that comes to mind that was said by one of the participants was when you're an independent type of person, it helps to be with somebody who's also independent so they have a better understanding as opposed to looking for somebody who is dependent, which makes it a lot more difficult. And right now it kind of brings back this idea. It doesn't happen all the time, but this when we did the anxious attach and the avoidant, although most of the time avoidant they say that it doesn't work, but it didn't they didn't talk about it in the book, but it kind of makes sense to find somebody who understands you so that you can actually have the type of relationship that works for both of you as opposed to trying to convince somebody to be something that they're not.
And that I completely agree. And I also like to know yourself and to know the definition. Like we said, is like, what is your definition of independent? My definition could be completely different of your definition.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was be like, no, I need some time for myself. But when I give your time, I'm there. I'm present for you. If it's only 4 hours of the week, you will have my full intention and that 4 hours. That could be my definition. And for somebody be independent, it's like, no, I see you when I want to see you. It's my turn, my rule, me and the highway. It's all depending what is the definition of the person that you're dating. So it's a question that you should ask, like, what is your definition of relationship? What is you? How do you put yourself independent in a relationship? What worked for you? And it's to ask those type of question.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And one more thing was this idea because we talked about independent in terms of like how much time, But then another thing that's even more important is the quality of time that you spend with
Yes.
somebody. Because if you spend, like we said, like 7 hours with somebody, but like 6.5 of these 7 hours is like each of you are on your phone, that's not really a good relationship, as opposed to another relationship where you only spend 2 hours together. But it's 2 hours that are like totally focused on one another. So that's more of a relationship, and you still have your independence. You have 2 hours of focus. So that's the thing. Like, so if you're independent, but when you're with the person, you have 2 hours of focus, energy, you get to know each other for 2 hours, and then you go your separate way doing your own thing. Is much better than if you spend all the time together, but most of the time you're each on your phone or playing games. Then that's not really a relationship.
Yeah, and it also go with the love language, right? I think just think about the 5 love language, quality time. So for me, I know who's more my, yeah, I'm a dependent. 100%. My character is
Fine.
more independent, but I know when I give quality time to my friends or my partners or whatever, I will give my time. That's mean if I'm with you. That's why I used to do the cell phone rules. Like, okay, if I'm with you for 4 hours, I'm with you the weekend. I'm going to give you 5 hours that we're doing something, we're connecting, and those 5 hours is for you. This 4 hours is not me being distracted with my friends or doing that. It's us growing. But that would be my difference. But for somebody else, for them, is not quality time. That's the way I give love language. For someone will be words, like maybe words affirmation of words. Who's independent will be saying, hey, I love you, I miss you, let's do something. So I think it's all related with the secure attachment style and the love language.
Yeah, definitely. And there's another thing too, that was mentioned by the participant. That was a great point. Was like, well, people have different lifestyle. If you have a career, if you have kids, if you have like a bunch of like, if you have a parent that you're taking care of, you're not going to have as much time as somebody who's like, I don't know, like a freelancer and have their own time, or somebody doesn't have a job and they have like all the time in the world to be with you, and somebody else is like, I'm sorry, like I can't. So it's not really like necessarily being independent. It's just like, like as people grow up, there's different responsibility. You don't have the same amount of time you had as a high school student as you have as a single parent, for example.
No, the older you get, like for me, I know I am like, it's also regarding priority, okay? And I think that's what you should ask in a relationship is like, what defines you? If someone is telling you right now, for me, what's important is my career, is my goal, you have to understand and respect the fact that that job might come before you. If someone tells you they have children, you have to understand and respect that thing also, that those kids will come for you. And for me, it makes complete sense. If you have children, you're dating a parent, it makes 100% those kids will come before you. So you have to be, it's always about the honest conversation and what's your priority in life. Is your priority someone is telling you, hey, me is to party all night long? We all know how much I love my sleep. For me, I would not be able to date someone that will like to party all night long. I go to bed at 10 p.m. and I'm snoring. So it's all about your priority, what it is. If it's someone is starting to discover the world, hey, that means that person is going to be often out of the city. He's going to travel. And it's all to priority and ask questions to people to understand what is important for them. Because being independent, you could be career goal oriented, but you need emotional support. You'll be more dependent to the emotional support. You will need someone to tell you, hey, it's good, you're doing good, you're okay, you just need that support. Or you could be emotional independent, that you have friends, you get information from it, right? You don't depend and your emotion to your partner, but you're not financially responsible. So it's all those type of questions that you should ask, and ask what is the priority of the person in life? Which part of you is independent and dependent, and which sense?
Those are great questions, great topics to talk about on
Yes.
maybe not at first, well, maybe a
I would
first date.
say
Depends on the date.
I think second or third date. No, when you're starting to sleep over and you're like, let's start, and you notice that it's starting to be serious. And also the question about independent is easy how to play with it, the question also.
Like just bring in the topic of like dependency, independency. Maybe independency is probably the first one, because it's like a little bit less, I don't know, it's not as close, but talk about like what's being independent looks like for you, what's important, what different, like independence in terms of like emotionally, physically, spiritually, What's the other one? All of there's so many different aspects financially. There's so different aspect of what does that look
Physically,
like.
some people need to
Yeah,
be, some people are independent, depend physically of somebody else.
yeah,
It's
yes,
to
yes.
ask all, I think it's like to discover someone who's independent, which part of their life they're independent, to ask what is your priority in life right now.
Yeah. It's definitely like I never thought about it, but it's a very cool subject to explore when you're talking to different people at different stages, just to kind of get a better understanding of like make sure because we have to remember that everybody's got different experience and different understanding of what that
Yes,
means. So to talk about it, to be able to get a better understanding of what it means for both people will make it easier to see if there's a potential for a relationship or not. So yeah,
exactly. So
yeah, that's a great one.
yeah.
Beautiful. Alrighty, I think
Yes, we did
we
cover
covered that
it.
one.
So if you guys want to see what kind of subject that we have, what kind of intimate conversation, all the information is below the link
Mhm.
under this little video.
Absolutely.
And also next week, we're going to talk about
Interdependence, the
interdependence.
balance
So
between
the balance in
two.
between, and all our subject language regarding July will be on our Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, a website that is almost completed.
Huh?
All the information are there. If you need any feedback or any opinion, you could always contact us. We're always happy to read everybody's feedback and
Yeah.
hopefully to see you in our next intimate conversation.
Yeah, and if I can add another thing, if there's any subject that you would like us to explore, you can put that as a comment wherever that video shows up,
Yes,
because we're
exactly.
always open for new ideas or new topics to talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome. So I hope you enjoyed. If you like it, like it. If you would just like to subscribe. Yeah, and feel free to contact us on social media for any interesting topics. So thank you for watching.
Thank you for joining us, and
Yeah.
hopefully you guys are enjoying this week.
Yeah.
And
See you next
thank you
time.
again. See you
Yeah.
next time.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Okay,
Back
you
from
wanted to
the
join.
the
You wanted
Newton
to
break.
join
Wanted
us.
to join. So hi. Gonna look a
So
little weird, but all right.
that's okay. It will look cute. We may get more likes because Newton is there. People with pets, they get more likes videos when they have a pet inside.
That'll be the
Mascot.
the cover page.
Yeah,
We all talk about independence, and obviously he's not
but that's normal.
independent.
He's an animal. It makes sense. Human being is a little bit a different case. Him, he's an animal.
Yeah.
If someone told me my dog is very independent, I was like, you're not feeding that
But
dog.
you
You're
know
not
what?
taking care.
Emotionally independent. Some dogs
Yes.
are completely emotionally independent, and some of the
Yes.
dog, like this guy, not emotionally independent.
No, and like we said about people with pets, you have to be careful when you're taking care of your pets. That's why I would say if you have a pet, make sure you're there to give the attention that you have the pet and you have the lifestyle for the pet, because it's not fair for an innocent creature to be treated like that. And we all know I'm not the poster child for animal rights, but I think all animals should be treated
Of
equally if you
course.
decide to be in your responsibility. So let's go back on our subject. Welcome,
Yes.
Newton. Welcome back, Newton. And